Joining us now with a reaction from Capitol Hill, our Newsmax White House correspondent, John Gizzi, who quite fittingly, as he is adorned in his obligatory, customary fedora, comes in from Washington, D.C. Now, Congress is out of session, but people have been in front of the microphone, senators and congressmen, about this swap and about opening relations with Cuba. Overall, what has been the reaction, John?
Well, I have to say it depends on who you talk to on this. There are Democrats who favor this and applauded the president's movement. Then again, there are Democrats such as Senate Foreign Relations Committee Robert Menendez, who is furious and who, I might add, was never brought in on the discussion ahead of time. Similarly, on the Republican side of the aisle, people such as Senator Jeff Flake of your state of Arizona, J.D., was not only a strong proponent of ending the travel ban and the embargo, but certainly did have a heads up on this and told the first House member who ever introduced legislation on the travel ban, Congressman Mark Sanford. Then, of course, one has Senators Rubio and Cruz, who are going to move heaven and earth to stop the new relationship, shut the open door to Havana, so to speak. So they're divided, and it does not come down along party lines, as Senator Paul demonstrated with his remarks.
How long do you think this fight is going to continue?
You know, Miranda, one cannot say, because there is a feeling on Capitol Hill, and JD and I talk about this, that members are a little bit nervous about stalling over things, no matter how unimportant they are perceived in the national interest. The whole idea of partisan bickering is something that members who read their polls are a little worried about. So I'm certainly not sure. Look, Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio can block the appointment of an ambassador for a while. The president will give him a recess appointment. And of course, it takes an act of Congress to lift the embargo of goods. So, JD, don't go out and start thinking you're going to be smoking cigars at a local parlor anytime soon. This has to be handled by Congress, not by executive order. I have a funny feeling, though, that with all that Congress has on its plate, beginning with the I word, immigration, this won't take very long.
Well, let's talk not so much about Congress, but about 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, not the current occupant, but those who aspire to that job, including Senators Cruz and Rubio, both strongly against this, and of course Rand Paul, who is strongly in favor of it. How is this going to play in the sweepstakes for the White House in 2016?
Well, I have a feeling, JD, that very much like the opening to Hanoi years after the Vietnam War that President Bill Clinton oversaw, this will not be a major issue 2 years from now. And let me point something out. Rand Paul said absolutely nothing on this issue. I brought it up at the White House when we had the press briefing shortly after the president's announcement Wednesday, and I asked if they had been in touch with him, and Josh Earnest, the press secretary, says, why don't you just call his office? Well, I did, and they said the White House had not been in touch, and, quote, Senator Paul does not have an opinion on the new policy. That was Wednesday, but of course, what a difference 24 hours makes. He certainly is in favor of it. He is the only one of the Republican presidential hopefuls who is in favor of the open door to Havana, I might add.
Speaking of presidential hopeful, one of those candidates on the Republican side, Jeb Bush, said President Obama has basically rewarded dictators by making this swap. How's that position going to play out for him?
Well, I have a funny feeling Jeb Bush, a Floridian, will do very well in his home state and in other states where there is a strong concentration of older Cuban-American voters, Miranda. Now, yesterday I went to a press breakfast with Ed Goaz and Celinda Lake, respectively very respected Republican and Democratic pollsters, and both said there is a clear divide among the Cuban-American community. Older Cubans who remember Castro's seizure of power, his embrace of communism, want him overthrown, want no dealings with Cuba until Castro is gone, one way or another. Younger Cubans favor an opening and favor greater contact with Cuba. So it all really depends on who's voting.
And speaking of those who will show up at the polls and at the caucuses as Republicans, we've got about a minute and a half. John Gizzi, is the Jeb Bush announcement to one day announce a candidacy, does he have a clear path to the establishment bona fides to run for the nomination, or will he encounter real difficulty? In the minute we have left, I'm interested in seeing what you think the bottom line is.
In answer to both your questions, no and yes. The so-called establishment, while many admire Governor Bush, will inevitably bring up within a few minutes of conversations, yes, but I wish he had a different last name. Is America ready for a third President Bush? That's why someone such as Governor Christie of New Jersey has not faded away at all as a candidate, nor has the dark horse candidacy of former California businesswoman Carly Fiorina, who is laying the groundwork to run herself. If Jeb Bush had a clear path to what you call the establishment money, JD, these people would not be seriously exploring the race, but deferring to him, as I do believe Mitt Romney will, if he hasn't already.
So Romney out, but the other folks actively looking at it, and Jeb Bush with some bumps in the road as he tries to basically become the standard bearer for the moderate wing of the party, is trying to become the standard bearer overall. John Gizzi, as always, we thank you for your time. Now it's time for a news update.